Welcome everyone. It is the DJ Bit once again with your host DJ Loco Lopez. I'm just here on my YouTube channel vibing. I want to talk about something today that I've been thinking about for a while. Let me just lower this music because it's kind of distracting me a little bit. Yeah, I want to talk about something today that I've been thinking about for a while. I've been thinking about doing this video now for quite some time. And it's why I'm still rocking the NS7 III. The NS7 III right behind me. Why am I still rocking this 10-year-old piece of gear? And there's a very good reason for it. There's lots of good reasons for it. There are a ton of new DJ consoles out, new DJ controllers. There's DJ Rev 7, awesome console, awesome controller. There's the Rain Performer, which is a 4-track. I'm not even mentioning the Rain 1. I never liked the Rain 1, to be honest. I just didn't feel it. Wasn't feeling it. Rain Performer is nice. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Gives you the Rev 7 and the 4 channels. So they're very nice. But back to what I was... Back to the reason for this video is why I'm still rocking the NS7 III. Alright, so as you guys know, I'm kind of partial to Numark, only because Numark kind of saved my life back in the day. They did it twice, actually. They saved my life twice. The first time is when we went to CDs, and I talked about this in another video. The CDN88 was, for me, a breakthrough, revolutionary dual CD deck that allowed me to scratch CDs, and that was like such a godsend for me. So I really like Numark for that. I also was really partial to their mixers. For years, I loved their mixers. And then Numark saved me again when they released their first motorized controller. So let's get into the video why I'm actually still rocking a Numark NS7. Alright, let's get into it. Still rocking an NS7. Alright, so there's a couple of reasons why I'm rocking an NS7 III. So here's the NS7 III. Right, there's the NS7 III. It's a 4-channel controller, and once again, it's 10 years old, and you can't buy this controller anymore. It has been discontinued, and I'll tell you a little hint that lets you know how good this controller really was. You can't find it anywhere. No one is selling their NS7 IIIs. If you go on eBay, you'll see a few beat up NS7s, the original, but you will not see an NS7 III. Maybe a couple of NS7 IIs without the screens, but anybody that has an NS7 III has not sold it. So that's a pretty good indicator of how popular and how stable this product really was. If you're lucky to get your hands on an NS7 III, I'm telling you, it is a great, capable controller that can match and class up to any of the current controllers today. You know, it doesn't have all the features, it has all the features. It has every feature you can think of, but it doesn't have the layout like you know what's out there and available now. But anyway, so Numark first came out with the NS7, the original, the OG, the 2-channel controller. And once again, I was really grateful because they gave me the ability to mimic turntables again. So I went from my CD decks over to my NS7 controller. Okay, and of course I bought the NS7 effects because I wanted to have the extra features on that when I bought it. And that thing was great. That was rock solid for a long time. But then they came out with the NS7 III, and the NS7 III added 4 tracks, So instead of 2 channels, you had 4 channels. That was fantastic. And it added the screens, and I really like that too. Because I'm halfway between being a DJ purist and adopting like the latest technology. Because I feel like, you know, being old school and having spent 20 years using turntables, 20 something years, well, actually all my 40 years of DJing, I've used turntables, but, you know, having spent all that time as a turntablist, you know, there's part of me that still feels like you need to be true to the art form. You need to know how to beat match. You need to know how to mix by ear. You need to know how to handle a platter correctly. You need to know, there's just certain things you need to know. Does that mean I think that DJs aren't DJs today because they're using controllers and they're using other pieces of technology? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I have no problem with the sync button. I have no problem with the extra features. I use all the extra features. So I'm not downing any of that stuff. But like I said, part of me feels like you should know the fundamentals, you know, and I think that's what DJ purists feel when they're, well, anyway, you know what? That's a segment for another video. Let's continue on with the reason why I started this video in the first place and the reason why I even want to talk about it at all. And let's get back to the NS7 and some of my considerations why. All right. So let's consider the first thing is functionality. Okay. The NS7 III still has functionality. It still gives me all the tools that I need to mix. You know, nothing new has come out under the sun that's so vastly different from what the NS7 III can do that I would consider spending the extra $2,000 to get another one. Okay, which brings me to number 2, which is cost. Okay, cost is pretty important. I mean, these controllers aren't cheap, and you know they're $2,000. You know, $2,000 a pop, and I already paid. I think I paid about $2,000 for the NS7 III when it came out. I don't remember how much it was, but I know I made that investment before. So, you know, cost is a factor. So if you have an NS7 III, it has all the features you need. You don't need to go out and spend an additional $2,000 and then set the NS7 III to sit in a corner collecting dust, because the thing is a workhorse. Okay, so that's reason number 2. Reason number 3 is, does it add value? You know, does it add value? Yeah, it does. It adds tons of, you know, I mean, wait, that's not the point I was trying to make. Does it add value? If you buy something new, okay, can you charge more for it? Can you charge more for having that tool? And no, you can't. If I go out and I've got this NS7 III, which has the same functional value as a DDJ Rev 7 or a Rain Performer, I can't look at the customer and charge them more. So it doesn't really add any value as far as a dollar amount is concerned. You know what I mean? So anyway, and on to the 4th, other investments. Other investments. That's a really, really important factor when you're a DJ. Okay? If I'm going to spend money on gear, this is how I look at it from a business perspective. Okay? I'm looking at it from a business perspective. And once again, I am not cheap. I spare no expense on equipment. Okay? I will spend on equipment. It's not even about me being cheap. Okay? I spent, if you look behind me, I have trusses, okay? And I have trusses for my speakers. I spent nearly $800 creating truss poles so that it would look really, really nice with the subwoofers, a speaker pole for the subwoofers. Instead of just a straight pole, I bought a truss, and that cost me $800 to make those trusses, okay? To make those speaker pole trusses. So it's not about money. It's not about like spending the money. It's just it's about the investment in your product. Okay, so I have a tool that does it all. Do I really need to invest any more replacing that tool? Okay. Now I did it with the NS7 because this offered several features that the NS7, the original NS7, didn't have. So I replaced it. Yeah, of course I did. But if you're going to spend $2,000, make that investment into something else in your system if you've got something that works. You know, speakers, man. Speakers take a beating, okay? They take a massive beating, and you should probably replace your speakers more often than any of your gear, because your speakers, they're the ones that are really out there doing their thing, okay? And every 5 years, I buy new sets of speakers. So take that $2,000. If you have something like this, take that $2,000 and put it towards some speakers, towards some new speakers. Okay, so it's about your investments. All right. So I'm not gonna drag out a bunch of. I was gonna do like a whole thing on the NS7 III and all that, but you know, there's a lot of videos out there. If you want to see what the NS7 III does, you can check out those videos. I'm gonna mention a couple of key points on the NS7 III that, you know, we can talk about today, that are the reasons why I continue to use it. I'm not going to get too much into them though, because it makes no sense. I mean, it's 10-year-old technology. I'm not trying to sell you on buying one, but what I'm trying to sell you on is that if you have one and you're rocking it, keep rocking it. Like, there's no reason to buy something else. That's really the point of this video. It's not to sell you on buying one of these, because you can't find one anyway. So this isn't meant for you. But what it is meant for is people, and I hate repeating myself over and over, but it's for people that think they need a new piece of gear to be a better DJ. You don't need a better piece of gear. As a matter of fact, I challenge you, go on to YouTube, check out videos that were done 7-10 years ago, before the DJ MS11, even before the NS7, before all of that. Look at what DJs were doing with the SL1 with Scratch Live. I mean, these guys were killing it. Okay, so you don't need new DJ gear to be a better DJ, is all I'm saying. That's all I mean. You know, is the Rev 7 great? Yes, it is. Is the Rain Performer great? Yes, it is. I'm not saying that they're not great and you shouldn't get them. I'm saying, once again, I want to, before I get anything in the comments, I want to let everybody know that this is the reason why I rock what I rock, and why I'll continue to rock it until it no longer serves its purpose. Okay, let's continue with the presentation here. All right. So here's my NS7 III. All right, that video didn't start like I wanted it to. All right, there it goes. So there's my NS7 III. I've got it set up. I was getting it set up for a gig, and I stopped for a minute to just kind of show you guys how I set up my gear. And I have it like in an island setup. Now, that's something else that I like about it. See, those are the trusses I was talking about. You know, I spent $800 making those trusses, so I'm not cheap. In any case, that's my NS7 setup when I go to play. And that's how it looks most of the time. It's a little bit cleaner. Like, I set it up cleaner, and I make it look really professional and everything. So this was just kind of as I was starting the night. And back there, I usually I'll have a facade to cover all that stuff. So this was just kind of setting it up to show you guys, just to take a video of it and show you guys like how everything is set up. In any case, you know, the way that I have it set up, it's that island setup, and you know, it looks impressive still. There's nothing wrong with that look. It still looks amazing. Because another key thing about buying new gear and you know, all of the things that go along with buying new gear is that really sometimes some of the reason that DJs buy new gear is to impress other DJs. That's really the bottom line. A lot of the things we do, a lot of things we buy to impress other DJs. You know, if you go out to a venue and, you know, I'm sure that there are DJs that looking at me rocking an NS7 III going, wow, that's old tech. You know what I mean? But I don't care. I really don't care, because I know what the thing can do, and I do a lot with it. So, and I know that that I can stand up against anybody with any of the new tools and outperform, you know, match or outperform them in that tool. So, you know, don't try to impress other DJs is what I'm saying, because DJs are always going to judge you. They're going to judge everything you do, whether you buy something new, whether you keep up with the Joneses or not. They're going to, you know, they're going to judge you. The old guys are going to judge you because you're using a controller. The new guys are going to judge you because your controller's not new enough. So what does it matter? All right, so let's get back to one of the reasons why I like the NS7 III. All right, so it is a 4-channel controller, okay? And it has a standalone mixer. Now that's nothing new. A lot of the controllers now have, you know, 4-channel standalone mixers. But the NS7 has that, okay? And one of the things that I want to mention about the 4-channel standalone mixer is that it's selectable. So there are 3 selectable parameters that you can have on each of the 4 channels, okay? You can, the leftmost is the PC, okay, which means that it's set to Serato, and however you have it assigned for the Serato channel. The center switch, when you move it to the center, it's for mic. And what I really like about that feature a lot is that any of those channels can be mic 2. Any of the 4 channels can be mic 2. So if you're using, and this is how I use it, if you're mixing on channels 1 and 2, and you have maybe something going on the 4th channel or the 3rd channel, you can select that switch, either channel, to be the microphone. That's freaking awesome, okay? I mean, yeah, there's another microphone pot on the front that's a whole separate channel for a different microphone, but you know, you have that option. I kind of like the flexibility of being able to have my microphone on any of the 4 channels, and you know, it really works for me because my microphone is connected into that mic 2 pot. The front face microphone that I have, I use that for something else. So, you know, the 4 channels, being able to select that from mic 2 is really good. And then lastly, it's the line level. So each track, you can connect a line source to each track. So if you have a couple of backup CD players, or if you have turntables, you can connect those. And NS7 III enables DVS, so you can still use that mixer as a mixer for Serato DVS. So I like it. It's, you know, it's a standalone mixer, and that's one of the key features that I like about it. And I already mentioned that it had selectable channels, so I'm going to skip that part of the video. So another feature that I like a lot is that it has touch capacitive knobs. Okay. The touch capacitive knobs are a feature that were introduced in the NS7 III, and I'll tell you how I use them. Okay. Now with the Rev 7, the DJ mixers like the DJM S11, the S7, the S11, the Rain 72, the Performer, all of these new controllers that have the mixers in them, they all use paddles, okay? That paddle to engage the effects. And the capacitive knobs on the NS7 III give me the ability to basically kind of mimic that. You know what I mean? All I have to do is touch the knob. So I can touch the knob, and that would act like a temporary engagement of an effect. And I can hit the button, which would engage the effect. It's different. It's a little bit different from... It's definitely different from, you know, the paddles. You know, I will say that it's pretty nice to have everything like centered in your controller, like all of the effects and everything centered in your controller. It's cool. My hands do float a lot around the machine. But, you know, if I'm DJing and people are seeing my hands flying around the machine, it looks like I'm doing something. So at least, and I really am doing something, but you know, it looks more impressive to the customer, to the people that you're DJing for. So yeah, do I like everything compact? Yeah, I you know, it would be nice to have it compact, but the NS7 III does have the touch capacitive knobs, and I can use those to engage my effects. Also, the touch capacitive knobs don't stop there. There, you know, you have EQ kills, and you have filter roll effects and everything, which if you check out other videos, you can definitely see. You can definitely see other videos that show you how that stuff works. So I won't get into all of that here. But you know, you have that functionality, so you don't lose anything with the. You don't lose anything if you keep an NS7 III. All right, so another feature that I like that the NS7 III kind of gives me a little functionality is, let me go back here, is that the NS7 III still has the cue buttons, but it also has the pads. So that kind of opened up a little bit for me on the NS7 III. When I was looking at the other controllers, I didn't see that they had other cue pads. Okay, so what this means for me is that when I'm using the NS7 III, if I'm engaging the pads in some other function, like I'm using them as a sampler, or I'm using them for stems, okay, or I'm engaging them in a loop of some sort, whatever other function I'm doing that's not using them as a cue point, I can still trigger my cues using the cue buttons. So it gives me like the best of both worlds. And I do use that. I use it all the time. Sometimes I'll throw my pads into a sampler mode while I'm still triggering, you know, one of the tracks to do a scratch, okay? And, you know, it's better, you know, the better example really of that is just sometimes when I'm using a loop or I'm using something else, I can still trigger the pad, you know? I can still trigger a cue with the cue button. So it's a lot of flexibility that I don't see in other controllers. So it's something that, hey, I mean, it works. That works really well. I use it all the time. I can't tell you how much I use it. So I feel like if I had a new controller, I'd kind of lose that a little bit. So that's one of the things. It gives me a lot of flexibility. So, you know, I'll kind of end on that note. I mean, not end the video, but end for that feature. Okay, so the last thing I want to look at is that it still supports stems. You know, for me, that was going to be a deal breaker. If Serato didn't support stems, that was kind of a deal breaker for me. And that would have caused me to maybe go out and get a new controller if they didn't still support stems. But they do. They still support stems on the NS7 III. You can, if you go into Serato, and you can change the hardware settings in Serato, and you can select a feature that you don't use. It only has like sampler and slicer available for the NS7 to replace. I don't use slicer that much, so it's not a feature that hurt me too much to lose. You know, I didn't really lose it. I can always select it back if I really wanted it. But I've set it to replace the pad mode for stems. and works great. I use Slicer. I might have used maybe once or twice in the 10 years that I've owned the NS7. Maybe once or twice. And when I replaced it with stems, okay, the slicer mode with stems, I use it all the time now. It's almost always in stems mode because I'm always going back and forth between stems and cues. You know, so I really love this controller. I think the controller still has a lot to offer, and if you have one, keep it, use it. It's gonna keep rocking for you for a long time, you know. So that's my take on it, guys. That's my thing, is that, you know, I really love my NS7 III. And I'm gonna, you know, couple final points on the whole thing to drill the point home. So I sold my original NS7 because it was sitting in a corner collecting dust, and I regretted selling it. I really did. I sold it to a friend who then sold it to a nightclub, and they destroyed it within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, it was done. And I had kept it in great condition for 10 years, for over 10 years. And, excuse me. So I was really kind of pissed to see that a good piece of gear got trashed like that. Something that I owned. I should have kept it. I could have used it for anything, because I'm resourceful. I repurpose all my gear. I repurpose everything. I keep it all. I'm a gear whore. Let's face it. That's all. I'm just a gear whore. But I do repurpose things that I have. You know, if I have an old laptop, I'll repurpose it for something. It's gonna have a use. And so if I buy a new controller, my NS7 III is gonna sit in the corner, because most likely I will probably never use it again. It'll just sit in a box, and it'll sit in a corner. Then I'll fight with myself about selling it, and I don't want to sell it because it still has a lot of value. I would probably just make it a stationary music source in my studio down here, but it's still making me money. The thing is still making me money. There is no downside to having this thing. You know, I'm used to it. I've had it for 10 years. I know all the features on it. I haven't lost any features. And the thing is rock solid. You know, and another point I want to make is, you know, I had Technique 1200s for the last 40 years. And I didn't get rid of those. You know, as a DJ, we kept that equipment for, you know, you needed a couple things. You needed 2 turntables, you needed a mixer, you needed a good amp, and a good set of speakers, and your records. That was the key components you needed for your DJ setup. Okay? And you didn't just swap out turntables every time a new turntable came around. You didn't do it. You kept the Technique 1200. It was the best thing going at the time. And that's kind of how I feel about the NS7 III, is that it's like a Technique 1200 to me. It's rock solid. It's stable. Look, it doesn't cut out. It doesn't freeze. It still functions perfectly. There's no broken knobs on it. There's nothing. I'll replace it when it just doesn't serve its purpose anymore. You know, when it doesn't work anymore. When it stops, when it fails, when Serato stops supporting it, you know, I'll think about it then. You know, I'll think, okay, well, now the software is not being supported anymore. So, especially if they take away features, or, you know, make features only available on new controllers, then I'll consider replacing it for my own purposes, just because I want to continue using new features. But for now, I haven't lost a thing. I haven't lost anything. So if you have old gear, guys, if you have old gear and it's still working for you, no need to change it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If you have old gear that works for you and you love it and you're comfortable with it and it's like an old shoe, don't let other DJs convince you that, you know, you suck because you have some old piece of technology. If you can, here's the thing, if you can kick their asses on that controller, on that old controller, on, you know, there are guys out there, man, I'm sure they're still rocking an original NS7 that to just kick my ass, kick everybody's ass, okay? Just kick ass, no matter what you got. Doesn't matter what you got. Don't impress other DJs. Screw the other DJs. Don't impress them. They're not the ones paying your bills. They're not the ones that are holding on to gear. They're not the ones that are doing any of that stuff. So don't impress other DJs. Impress your crowds, man, the people that pay you money. And if the NS7 III is working for you, keep rocking it, dude. Keep rocking it. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep rocking this thing until the wheels fall off of it. And I'm pretty good at taking care of my equipment. So until Serato stops supporting it, and until maybe some electronic default happens inside of it, after years and years and years and years of use, I'm gonna keep rocking it. You know, minor confession, I'll probably buy something new in like a year or two. I mean, I love the NS7 III. I probably will buy something new just because I love DJ gear. So, but that's just me, you know. I'm buying it for me. I'm not buying it to impress other DJs. That's not the thing. So that's what I'm really getting at, is that, you know, I may buy something in the future. So if you see me rocking something new, oh, you hypocrite, you said you were gonna keep rocking the NS7 III. I probably will buy something new, but right now I don't need to. That's all I'm saying. I don't need to. It works really fine. And so, all right, I'm gonna end that. I'm gonna end the video on that. Thank you guys for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I hope if you had any doubts, or if you were feeling some type of way about having an old controller, I'm just gonna say it again. Keep rocking, man. Keep rocking with that old controller. You're gonna be fine. You're not missing anything. Just be good at what you're doing. That's all. Just be good at it. And replace other stuff that you need. Anyway, signing out, DJ Loco Lopez. Thank you guys for joining. See you on the next one.